All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. Where we're both representing, well, you're representing for the Cowboys. I'm representing today for my alma mater, Brigham Young University. We got the big upset last night over Kansas.
I saw that. That return for a touchdown was real nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great game. We're 3-0. We better be ranked because Kansas is ranked 13. So we better be ranked after this week so I can hold on for 1 week and be like, yes, until we lose to somebody else. It's coming, but I got to enjoy it now.
Yeah, my only silver lining is I am a Longhorns fan, so we are ranked one. So I'm happy with that. I'm in mourning wearing the black Cowboys jersey just because we've been robbed $240 million. So... yeah,
man.
Not looking forward to this afternoon's game, but we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna sit there and
who do the Cowboys have today?
We have the Ravens. So Derrick Henry's gonna.
Ravens can't get out of their own way. You'll be fine. The Ravens are 0-2, and they're tripping over coffee tables. Can't get out of their own way. So.
I hope so.
And I'll be rooting for you because I'm a Steelers fan. Because we need
that's true. That's true. So that's why black jersey today. I'm in mourning, so we're good.
In mourning, it's all good. Well, we're not here to talk about football, even though we could probably do that all day too. We're here to recap Raw and SmackDown, all the happenings, all the fun, all the events as we're heading up to Bad Blood. I'm surprised they didn't join with Taylor Swift for the theme song for Bad Blood.
Oh, just wait for it. It might be coming.
Sure, it probably is. But on the road, we start with Monday Night Raw. Big D, what happened this week?
So we actually had CM Punk come out. It was interesting. I don't know if I'm a fan or not of these cameras, like the way they do like the kind of like on the NFL they do like pregame entrances where like they camera is on you like walking in. They're starting to do that now. Part of me is like that's pretty cool, but part of me is like this is gonna get old really fast if they don't do something different about it. But they did do the final one with CM Punk where they followed him into the arena, which is obviously a favorite of mine, and I know yours as well. So that was cool to see. Yeah. Takes off whatever hoodie or shirt he was wearing at the time to expose his best in the world, his newer shirt. But comes out, thunderous crowd, of course. They're all live and excited for him. So comes out and pretty much says a lot of the same in terms of like persevering and coming through and all that. But something interesting he said is that he is really turning this into like a blood feud. Obviously, it's supposed to be, hence Bad Blood, hence Hell in a Cell. But he was saying that all his family, including his wife, want him to not take this match, and they asked him how many of these Hell in a Cell matches do you have in you, and he was like, none. I don't have any of these in me, and which is probably realistic. And so of course the crowd starts booing because they want to see it, and of course he says, but I'm not going to listen to them. I'm taking the match. Pretty much just saying he's going to take on Drew McIntyre is going to rue the day that he messed with CM Punk, and yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it, really. I mean, it was a good promo. It's a CM Punk promo. I really can't do it justice just because he does well in promos. That's his absolute forte. Yeah. And I love hearing the man talk on the mic. It's awesome. Drew McIntyre wasn't there, obviously, so there was no interruption there. So what did you think of the promo? It wasn't very long either.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, which that was my favorite part, so it wasn't very long. We got to see very little of CM Punk. It got a little too dramatic for me. I will say that at one point. I appreciated, to your point, how he talked about that everyone's trying to talk him out of it, and he doesn't have any Hell in the Cells, if he's being honest, left in him. But he was talking about how, willing to die, and talked about killing Drew, and about Drew having to kill him. Like, it got a little too dark and a little too dramatic. It's like, okay, neither of you are going to literally kill each other. Because according to CM Punk, the only way this ends is one of them has to actually be dead. So
that's premeditated murder, kids.
Premeditated.
Exactly. Sorry, premeditated murder.
Premeditated murder. So
they're gonna be on standby with cuffs.
I'm like, dude, okay, how are they gonna write this in the storyline? Like, CM Punk already said it. One of them has to be dead. You got to write one of them off of television. And I'm assuming CM Punk's gonna win this because they're not gonna have Drew kill him and then walk away. So a little too dramatic, but it checked all the boxes in the lead up to Bad Blood, very appropriately so for the Hell in a Cell.
I agree. After that, we had the, I guess, sort of blow-off match for Pete Dunne and Sheamus. Very interesting match. They came out. Of course, both men put on a great match together. I enjoyed this match. It was lots of fun. Lots of hard-hitting, which was great. Of course, there's the animosity and anger there. Butch, they call him Butch, and he gets pissed. So, obviously, Pete Dunne was there. And I really like seeing this more... I feel like he's more aggressive than when he was like the Bruiserweight in NXT UK. And
Yeah.
I feel like he is, you know, he's, and it's, I love seeing it. It's a good side of him. It's that more like frustration, and he's taking it out on Sheamus. Sheamus tried to get the shillelagh to try and, you know, kind of give him a piece of his own medicine, but he had another one. It looked like hidden away, or not a shillelagh. I'm sorry,
It's
he had
a
another
cricket
weapon.
bat, right?
It was the cricket bat, and I this is where it kind of fell flat for me because the match was going so well, and there was a lot of back and forth. And then he kind of like hits him with the cricket bat, but I don't think Sheamus knew how to like protect himself from it and still take the bump. So like it looks like he just like hit his elbow, and then Sheamus just like,
Yeah.
oh, delay, and then like he fell back, and I was like, dang it, mistimed, I guess. But again, that, you know, he hit the knee strike at the end to get the win. Obviously, this is going to lead to some sort of hardcore match. I'm sure, probably a Bad Blood, or soon, right? Some kind of street fight or Irish bar fight or something. It's going to be some kind of street fight at the end. So overall, I enjoyed it. I just feel that finish was kind of a little wonky, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean it was, and I think the other thing that bothered me too is again it's the weird choices by the referees. So this one you had when Pete Dunne introduced the shillelagh, he kind of did everything right in plain view of the ref, and then the shillelagh's on the ground in the rings, laying on the canvas, and everyone's looking at it, and the ref's looking at it. It's like, why didn't the ref just grab it and
Or kick
take
it
it
out,
away?
yeah.
Instead, he stood at it and he's like, no, no, don't do it, Sheamus. And then Sheamus picks it up and then he like wrestles it away from Sheamus. It's like there was no reason for him to do any of that other than to wrestle it away from Sheamus and have his back turned so that Sheamus could get hit by the cricket bat. Was the only reason why it was set up that way. But it doesn't make sense why he didn't just go, oh, this is a weapon, I'm going to get rid of it because it's sitting right in front of me. He waited, he kind of warned Sheamus and then waited till he grabbed it, then tried to wrestle it away from him. So just, again, odd decision making by the referees because they're trying to set up the ending, but it just makes the referees look incompetent all the time now.
Well,
So that was the one
referees-
thing that it got kind of screwy for me. But
Well, incompetent referees was the theme of the night tonight, as was delays. So we're gonna get more into that later. So after that, we had Natalya against Zoe Stark in a pretty decent match. Natalya looking strong, coming back to take out, you know, Zoe Stark. And I think this is really just more fluff to kind of build through the six woman tag match that's gonna happen again. But again, they went back and forth on pinning attempts. Natalya beats Zoe Stark with a pinfall, and that was it. They're saying she remains undefeated on her return. I'm like, well, this is her first singles match, but okay.
she won by surprise schoolboy roll up. I mean,
Yeah.
surprise roll ups. They happen too often. They happen a
It's
few
the
times.
most devastating move in all of pro wrestling.
Absolutely.
So-
More devastating between surprise roll ups and then, of course, hitting people off the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. It's the
It
cliches that just keep coming along. I will say, Natalya, she looked fine for me. I think you can definitely tell she's lost. Now she's doing that discus clothesline.
Yeah.
It looks a little too slow now. And it doesn't look quite as fluid as it used to be. So she doesn't hit it as well. So I feel like as I was watching the match, I'm like, Natalya's had a great career. She just has, you can tell she has lost a step. And then that surprise schoolboy roll up kind of happened really slowly too. So it wasn't too much of a surprise. And then you have PFC, what I'm calling them PFC, right? At this point.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not gonna try saying that
They
anymore.
lost 2 weeks in a row. So I guess the Pure Fusion Collective should really think about rebranding because they're not being all that successful right now.
Well, they need to rebrand their gimmick too about being the most dominant force or hindering force.
Oh, I know.
and all.
They
So
can't
you're
beat
not.
anybody at this point.
Yeah, they can't beat their way out of a paper bag. Okay, so after that we had Jey Uso come out to kind of hype up his Intercontinental match, which I thought was going to be at Bad Blood, but it's actually going to be next week on Raw, which unfortunately we know that means he's not winning. They don't change those kind of titles. I mean, I could be wrong.
Unless surprise of the night. That'd be surprise of the year if that happened.
That would, and I'd be happy for Jay, very much so. I've been saying that he should get his own title, but we'll see. He came out, kind of just said his piece about how he's going to win, and then Braun Breaker comes right out and again takes over. It's awesome to see that you have a face and a heel who are both immensely over, right? You have Jey Uso's, everyone yeeting in the crowd, all that good stuff, and then Braun Breaker comes out and asks if there's dogs and they just are barking. Like, it's awesome to see that because then the crowd's really going to be torn during the match, and it should be a great match. But then after that, Braun Breaker tries to beat up Jay and tries to go for the spear, and when he hits the ropes the second time, Jay hits the spear, which was actually a nice little a nice little touch there. Braun Breaker gets hit with his own move essentially, but it's really also Jay's, but it's Roman's, but it works. And so, yeah, that's how they pretty much ended that part. Jey Uso left, standing tall, and that's gonna set up for next week.
Yeah, it is. Best line from here was Jay saying that Braun Breaker's title run might be short and sweet like his NFL career.
Yeah, that was a good line. I laughed.
There was some good stuff here. You're right. They're both totally over. This one should be a fun one. It is a bummer because it does feel like, yeah, Jay's going to be the bridesmaid again. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. In this situation too, which they've got to stop doing. But should still be an entertaining match. And looking forward to next Monday.
I agree. After that, we had Judgment Day taking on the New Day for the tag team titles, which mid-show, obviously we knew the titles were not going to change hands, but a lot happened. So you had, Finn Balor, JD McDonough. Before this happened, you had Xavier Woods going to Damian Priest and Jey Uso and Rhea Ripley saying, hey, I know you have your beef with Judgment Day, but let us handle this on our own. Like, we got this. We don't need help. Like, we really just want to get these titles and be, 13-time champs, whatever. And of course, we respect that, and that was that. So then, fast forward back to the match. They're having a great match. Of course, it's New Day. I mean, they always put on a great match, and Finn Balor and JD, they actually work really well together too. So it was good all around, right? But then of course you have Judgment Day shenanigans. They come out as expected, and then LWO surprisingly comes out, which not really, because Judgment Day and LWO have their beef because of Rey Mysterio, and so they kind of fight in the ring, and then. Again, I think they are going to do a New Day split. And I hate to see it, but you had Kofi get distracted with wanting to help LWO. He even does a trust fall to the back. And, Xavier Woods noticeably frustrated, like, what are you doing? The ref took more effort into, because you had Xavier Woods hit that, the walking rope clothesline, which I like that he does. It's a cool move. And had JD McDonough dead to rights. I think everyone counted to like 10. And he's yelling at the ref because where's the ref? He's breaking up the brawl outside with nobody that has anything to do with anything in that match. And he's out there distracted.
Wait, agree, because I was like, this is more behavior from the referee that doesn't make sense, because it's like, who cares if they're all brawling out there? You don't need to
let them brawl. Call the match inside. Yeah. Like, that's always been the case, and I don't know what's so different now. It's so weird. Yeah. So of course it cost him that, and then in the whole frustration, and you see Xavier Woods there trying to get the ref's attention. He's arguing with the ref. Then he pushes JD to the ropes, which he doesn't see the tag from Finn Balor. And then JD holds him down on the ground so Finn Balor can hit the coup de grace. And that pretty much ends the match. And then after that, Kofi tries to kind of console Xavier Woods. He throws him off of him. And then they cut to commercial and whatever. And then they come back and they're talking to Kofi. And they're like, hey, Kofi, we want to talk about what happened. And he's like, hold on, I got to look for Xavier. You can hear screaming in the background. He goes, it's Xavier Woods. He's yelling at LWO, asking him, why did they go out there? And the LWO look confused as hell. And then Kofi tells him, I told him to go out there. And he's like, I asked him to come have our backs. And he's like, oh, you made that decision. So again, it's going back into like that split. And of course, Xavier Woods upset because beforehand, they showed Xavier Woods talking to Judgment Day saying, leave us alone. And then you had Kofi go and say, help us out. And then he asked him, why would you do that? He said, well, we don't have E. And he's like, oh, there it is. It's just us. It's just like, and so again, that's going to tie back into all the stuff that Karrion Kross has been telling Xavier Woods. And it's going to pull him over to the Final Testament, which I think is what's going to happen. Because also, if you notice, usually New Day has the matching ring gear. And Xavier Woods wasn't colorful. It was black and gray. Which is
he was wearing
like
black and gray.
Testament,
which I actually thought his ring gear looked pretty dope. But I was
it looked really nice.
It's not what he usually wears, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." But it looked cool. I mean, it looked cool. I was like, "Man, those are some cool looking wrestling pants."
Yeah, it was really cool. So but again, it matches more of like Final Testament style. Which that's more of like the little subtle hints. So. Could we see that breakup? How soon? Probably, but I don't know how soon. That's going to be interesting to see. And then they're going to have a banger of a match between them two, I'm sure, as like a feud there. So, what did you think of it all? I know a lot happened.
This was my match of the night, actually. Of all the matches, this was match of the night for me in terms of the actual match. I thought was great. Xavier Woods looked really good in this one. Like he was really on, and the New Day's great, but I felt like he was more on tonight. This night than I've seen him recently. And of course, the tag champs are great in Judgment Day. So this one was the most fun. It had the best storytelling. At least for me, it was the most enjoyable
Yeah.
storytelling of the night because they really have been doing the slow build with the rift between Kofi and Xavier, and now it's not just the judgment. It's not just the Final Testament now that's pushing it. It's like, okay, they're out of it now. It's continuing on with Kofi kind of making decisions on his own and not looping in Xavier Woods, and Woods isn't wrong here. So
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed this a lot. So this was my whole
agree.
favorite segment of the night.
I enjoyed it too. I had a different match of the night, and I actually had a different moment of the night. I had them split, but this was up there. It really was, just because I love a good storytelling, and this is a good callback because they are hanging on to what it's kind of like. Instead of beating a dead horse with Final Testament versus New Day, Final Testament versus New Day over and over and over and over and over, there he came in, Karrion Kross laid the foundation, sowed the seed, so to speak, and then just left, and just is now letting it spread like cancer, and it's getting into Xavier Woods' head, and Kofi's not realizing because he's still the happy-go-lucky. He doesn't, and he's still in New Day mode. So it'll be very interesting to see where they go from here. After that, we had what was my moment of the night, which is Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed just absolutely obliterating each other. It started out as a match.
This felt more. Sorry, this felt more like that scene from Family Guy with Peter and the chicken fighting each
Yes,
other.
yes.
Like as it was happening, that's all I could think about because it was getting more absurd. But go ahead. Talk
but yeah,
us through this.
I love my goofy wrestling though. So yeah, it was funny because they started out in the beginning. You know, it was a 1-on-1 match. I've been looking forward to this match, and you have Bronson Reed try to charge at Braun Strowman, and Braun kind of moves out of the way. Bronson Reed hits the turnbuckle, pops it off, right where it comes right off the top rope, and they act like they can't wrestle after that. And I'm like, it's just the top rope. Like,
you can totally
y'all
wrestle
don't jump on.
rope.
Well, that takes out Bronson Reed's finisher, so that's probably why. But then they start brawling, and then what I thought was, this is why it was one that made me laugh. You see Braun Strowman going to do the little like train thing, and then all of a sudden a random fan gets lawn darted at him, and the dude even equipped with sound effects because you could hear the guy yelling, ah! And then so he hits Braun, but like you look back and Braun just literally just grabbed this guy and just threw him over.
Well, and it was the chair spot from the other week ago with Braun throwing the chair, except it was Bronson Reed throwing a person at Braun, which was hysterical when it happened.
Yeah. Which of course we know it's a local talent, you know, obviously taking a bump properly.
Totally.
But it looks so good. And then you have Braun Strowman just like barrel through him into the timekeepers area. It takes out the barricades and takes out both of them. I'm like, they must have bought those ringside barricades from IKEA, because those things are just like I mean, I love IKEA, but those things they just come apart too easily and get fixed too easily. So, I mean, that's interesting. But yeah, they took that out. From there, medical personnel came out to kind of check on them, and then they got them out eventually. Then they start brawling. The Bronson Reed's talking trash. Bronson Reed's back in the crowd area. Braun Strowman goes after him. And then they continue to brawl backstage, where Braun Strowman's kind of just throwing him around, which was interesting. And then the refs try to stop him. He throws them out of his way, throws a golf cart at them.
Security personnel, flips over the golf cart.
Yeah, flips the golf cart over, throwing security folks around, and then Bronson Reed from like one of the cable boxes just cross bodies him into a table, which had somebody's lunch on it, because you saw the little styrofoam plates there, the little packages and stuff. And then from there, they're trying to get each other, get up and kind of get their wits about themselves. And then Braun Strowman just barrels through Bronson Reed through a conveniently placed sheetrock wall. And so that they kind of just went through the sheetrock. And at that point, that's where it ended, because they were both gassed out at that point because of all the offense that was going on, all the shenanigans. Yeah. But I enjoyed it because I like seeing that. You get to see these two guys who are both not only strong, but they're both athletic as hell. So you get to see them kind of show that off. And I just love seeing that. So it was fun. It was fun to me. It was an interesting segment. I don't know what they're gonna do now. I've said they should do a Falls Count Anywhere match, and I think that's probably where it's going to. Unless they take a page out of AEW's book and do like one of those stadium matches. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
They might do a street fight. Like, I don't know. They'll do something. Bring back the Boiler Room Brawl.
Oh,
like
that was so cool.
do something real crazy with them. It was for me. This was absurdly fun. I was like, it was one of those things that every moment that happened was trying to top the moment that came before it. And
Yeah.
so that's like when they went through the sheetrock wall, it was kind of like, all right. Like at that point, I was laughing, but in the good, in the best possible way.
Yes, of course.
I was
Yeah.
like laughing it through because I'm like, this is so ridiculous that it did remind me of Peter Griffin fighting the chicken, just
Yeah.
like rolling and punching each other.
Hmm.
But it was all kinds of fun, and I like the silliness of it.
Yeah, I did too. And then after that, we got serious again because then we had Ludwig Kaiser interviewing backstage, talking about how Sami Zayn isn't a proper opponent choice and he's just wasting his time. And then as he's talking, I guess they're trying to copy the whole Joe Hendry thing because he says Sami Zayn and then Sami Zayn's music hits. And
Yeah,
so I'm like, hey, he's not Joe Hendry. Don't take that. You leave Joe Hendry
yeah.
alone.
Say his name and he appears.
Right? But Sami Zayn comes out, so Ludwig Kaiser goes to interrupt him because he's telling him you don't deserve a match, and then Sami Zayn tries to tell him like, "Hey, are you sure it's not you that wants a match? Because you trying to prove yourself as a singles competitor," which he has a point. Like you did away with Giovanni Vinci, and now you're kind of doing things on your own. But what have you done since? And you probably have had your eyes on that title too. And why can't you challenge for it? And right before he could say anything, Gunther's music hits, and Gunther comes out, and he right away he tells Sami Zayn, "I'll get back to you in a minute." And he looked at Ludwig Kaiser and was kind of, it was actually I felt for it. He was like, "Is there anything you want to say to me? Anything you need to get off your chest?"
I
And
did
he's like,
too.
"Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." And the crowd was like building up, and then he just like pops Sami Zayn,
Yeah,
and they just jump him and beat him up, and then Gunther tells him, again, my answer will remain no. So that's probably going to be next week. This when they'll, because after next week will be the go home show. So I'm guessing that's probably when they'll do it. But we are probably
yeah.
going to see Sami Zayn and Gunther go at it. So we'll see. What did you
Agreed.
think of the segment?
Yeah, it was good. It did fool me too because I had that moment. I was like, "What is he talking about? Like,
Yeah.
something happened with him and Kaiser." So there was that moment where they did actually sold that pretty well and caught
Hmm.
me off guard. And I was like, "Ah, never mind, they're fine."
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. Continued the table setting. We'll see. I like the fact that he keeps saying no. Like he hasn't immediately gone from no to yes.
Right.
So I do like the fact that they're drawing this one out a little more.
I agree. But unfortunately, I still feel the only victory Sami Zayn will get is that Gunther's going to say yes and then decimate him. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think so. I hope so.
So after that was actually surprisingly, it was actually to some people probably what this was my match of the night. It was Io Sky versus Bianca Belair.
Yeah,
They had Kairi Sane at ringside along with, I am losing my brain here, but anywho, with Jade Cargill ringside as
yeah,
well with
yeah.
her. And I immediately thought, we're gonna get shenanigans. But Kairi Sane actually has a legit injury to her eye, so that she didn't get involved. And what commenced was a great back and forth battle. I mean, Io Sky is just amazing in the ring. She's just flying all over the place, hitting all kinds of dives and top rope moves. And Bianca Belair just as athletic, I feel, and just showing off her strength, catching her at one point. I think she was trying to go up for the over the moonsault, and Bianca Belair gets up, gets her over for the KOD, and that gets reversed too. It's just a whole bunch. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I think we also had, where was it? I have my note. Where is my note here? My notes. Yeah, my favorite spot, there it is, was when Bianca Belair, they're outside the ring. She gets Io Sky in a vertical suplex and then goes up the ring steps and then just throws her into the ring, which was actually really cool to see. It was a great visual. Then she hit a 450 splash, which you hardly ever see Bianca Belair do, like aerial moves like that. And that was actually really nice
Yeah.
to see her do. But then she got hit with a knee. Beautifully done. She got hit with a knee by Io Sky. And then, of course, she rolled her into a small package. And when she got her in that KOD to finish her off, Io Sky got the small package in, and it was a 1, 2, 3. But I'm not a fan of roll ups, but this one I feel was well placed just because of the fact that they were both so equally matched throughout. None of them looked bad in defeat, really. But they want this to go on further to a next chapter because this is probably going to gear up towards like a tag team title match, I'm sure, at some point. But this was a fun match for me. What did you think?
No, this was my runner-up for match tonight. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and it was the runner-up because of the finish, because of the surprise roll-up.
Yeah.
I think I gave them less credit for it. Also because the other women's match that we had with Natalia ended in a surprise roll-up. And so when it happened again, I was like,
I see
we're
that.
doing it. We got two surprise roll ups, and we got a surprise roll up in this one. And so everything was great up until that moment. So I was like, like the finish upset me so much that that's why the tag match that edged it out for me. But this one was great. The Io Sky also had a crossbody through the ropes onto Bianca that looked amazing when it happened. Like there was so much velocity to it, and she hit her with it perfectly, and it looked pretty devastating.
Yeah.
There tons of great spots here. It was really, really good. For me, it would have been match of the night if we just hadn't had our second surprise roll,
Like a clean victory or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like make a little bit less like she stole it, because I'm like, Io doesn't need to steal a win from anyone.
No, she doesn't. She's a champion in her own right. Like she is.
Yeah.
So then, after that, we had Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio main event. We knew there was going to be all kinds of shenanigans in this one, obviously.
Yeah.
You had all kinds of stuff going down. So, of course, before that, Damian Priest was, talking to Rhea first. And then later on, he's talking to Liv, telling he's going to destroy her boyfriend or whatever. And so they come out. Of course, they just avoided the whole running down the ring. Everyone just came down with him, so we knew what was going to happen. They came out, had a good match. I think at one point Damian Priest tried to do a Razor's Edge, and then Finn Balor kind of distracted so that Dominic can get his footing back. Judgment Day had Liv Morgan actually get a where is it? She helped get Dom out of a loss from getting a Falcon Arrow, because obviously Dom would lose with a Falcon Arrow. And she put his foot on the ropes. There's just a lot of shenanigans. You had Rhea Ripley came out.
She did that one. She did the foot on the rope in clear view of the referee. This is something I had a huge problem with when it happened, because she did it, and because it was like 1, 2, and she did it like right before 3, and then the ref pointed at the foot and was like, "Hey, his foot's there," and it's like, you watched her do that.
Yeah.
So why didn't you disqualify them? Like, it should have ended right, which again goes back to referees doing stuff that they shouldn't do. He clearly watched her do it, because he was counting boom, boom, and then he was looking right at her, and then when she did it, he was like, foot's on the rope.
Yeah.
So, and more referees being inconsistent, not just DQing it because she interfered in the match at this point. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was ridiculous. And then, but then you had Rhea Ripley come out, hit a spear on Liv Morgan, and then right over the announce table, which is actually pretty cool to see, a good visual. And then when the match just kind of went into all chaos, because everyone just started brawling, everyone started fighting, and then before you know it, Damian Priest hits the South of Heaven, gets the victory. But then as soon as the match ended, now Judgment Day is able to make their way in the ring, and they just jumped him. Really, they beat him. And then the visual storytelling, where like before you had Damian Priest cover up Rhea so she doesn't get the kendo stick shots, and he took them for her. And or when he's like reaching out to her, they did the same thing in reverse, where they were holding Damian Priest down while he got multiple coup de grace, and they made Rhea watch, which was a good visual. But then here's where I kind of had a big issue. So you had Jey Uso's music hit. First of all, his music hit, and then he came out, and he's just kind of standing at the entry. Yeah, he's kind of he's kind of like waiting at the entryway for a cue, I guess. And he's like, all right, cool. And then, but the whole time the camera's looking at him. If you're gonna do that, pan away, like watch them get beat up, and then come back, because what they were waiting for was, and this is just shocker because he's extremely fast, for Braun Breaker to hit a spear on Jey Uso to kind of just take him out. It was a good looking spear, obviously, because he was just standing there, but I think it would have looked a lot better if the timing would have been tied down a little bit tighter. And I think that's what threw it off, because then it's like he's there and he like got to the entry, like he's at the bottom of the entry ramp. He just stands there.
He stands there and he's like rubbing his hands and he's like, stalling for time. And I'm thinking, the chick that you're trying to bang is getting beat up, and
you're
her
just
best
watching.
friend is getting beat up, and you're just kind of like doing this slow, like waiting to go. And I was like, what is he waiting for? Like, as soon as it happened, so once Braun speared him, I was like, oh, okay,
someone missed their spot.
They were waiting. Somebody missed their cue. So, but it didn't make any sense at all. It's like, if you're going to come down for the save, come down for the save.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was the timing piece.
But pretty much that was it. Judgment Day stood tall over Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. I was not a fan of this the main event. I would have rather flipped it. I would have rather had like Io Sky and Bianca Belair as the main event, or the tag match as the main event, because that had a better storytelling arc to it. But what do I know?
Agree. This one was, and I also I'm gotten to the point now where is like Dom versus DP. You knew it wasn't going to be competitive because it shouldn't be
No,
competitive.
no, it shouldn't.
It was only competitive because they brought everybody ringside and they kept interfering the whole time. But
Right.
it started as like half a squash match. Initially, he was just like,
Yeah.
he's toying with Dom the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's only so much of DP wins, everybody jumps in and beats up him and Rhea, and they all stand over him. It's like we've done that a bunch of times already, and it's like we're just going to keep doing it until Bad Blood, and obviously Damon Priest is going to beat Finn Balor at Bad Blood, but it's just more of like we've seen this too much already. So, yeah, I agree. I wasn't a huge fan with this as the main event and this is the closeout because it wasn't one of the stronger matches, and there was at least two matches that probably deserved to be in the main event.
Or you know what? I would have been happy too if they would have had this match go first, and then they could have had CM Punk close it with his promo.
Yeah, that
like
would have been too.
I would have been okay with that, honestly. But what do I know?
Plus,
I'm just a guy in my office.
I gotta wait until the end of the show and been like, oh, maybe he'll run out of time and USA will cut him off.
Real.
But
that was Raw. Overall, I'd say it's probably about a B-. I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the finishes. Not much went on aside from that.
No Wyatts, no Wyatt 6, none of that.
We did have a promo.
We got a promo from American Made.
No, we got a Wyatt 6 promo. We got one. It was very brief.
Well,
and it was a QR code, which I went to the QR code. There's a bunch of poetry and pictures and crazy stuff on there. So it was interesting.
But I was like, I'd rather see them on there competing. So it was for me, it was like a B show. It was like, it was okay. They're pushing everybody into their spots for Bad Blood. Speaking of pushing people into their spots, we had SmackDown, which was more of that. Started off with a flashback to the cage match the previous week. And then they teased a pre-taped face-to-face with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes at Georgia Tech. And yes, we will get to that shortly. I have certain opinions about this. I'm sure I'll be in the minority here. And then we also got a metal detector bloodline assault on security, which probably should have ended their night as soon as they attacked the security guards going through the metal detector. But that would have made it a very short show. So they didn't. For some reason, they got to assault the security staff with impunity. So that opened the show. And then immediately following that, we had the U.S. title match between LA Knight and Andrade. This one was kind of a bummer for me because we got it kicked off and then it went to a commercial really quickly. Then I heard it was an even match from commentary when we got back from the break. And then what we got to see was mostly good. We got a second commercial break.
Picture in picture,
Picture in picture, but you still know nothing really consequential is going to happen during the
I think there's a roll up during the picture in picture too.
And I'm like, the match isn't going to end. So I was like, all right. So you're watching picture in picture. I mean, it was pretty good. It was mostly both, LA Knight and Andrade kind of hitting all their signature stuff. And when we got to the end, though, the ending was awkward because you can tell they clearly messed up the finish because Andrade was up on the top rope. And then LA Knight was going to do when he runs up really fast and leaps up the top rope. You can tell he was going to do a superplex, but he jumped up there and he slipped and fell down. And then he jumped up again and he slipped and fell down a second time. So Andrade just kind of pushed him off. And then Andrade, the finish turned into Andrade tried to do a drop kick and then he just missed him and then hit the ground and then stood up and LA Knight hit the BFT kind of clumsily and then pinned him. Like it was a terrible finish. And everything about it was messed up, and you could tell that they were just kind of tripping over themselves and going, "Hey, we gotta go, we gotta wrap it." And whatever their original intention was, which was clearly going to be a superplex, maybe a superplex, and he was going to roll him up and then stand him up and hit him with the BFT. I don't know how
that's what I think. I think that's what was going to be the ending.
Yeah, I think it was going to be, but then it seemed clumsy and disjointed. Yeah. But LA Knight, of course, retained. The match was fine. It was just hurt by 2 commercial breaks and then this really, really sloppy finish. But Big D, what did you think?
I felt like the picture-in-picture break felt like it took forever. Like I felt it was just like at one point I even forgot there was a match going on because the ads just kept going and I'm like, what the hell? I mean, good Lord. And then I saw the roll up. I'm like, really? We know it's not going to end that way. Then I thought, wouldn't it be funny if it did? Like, that would be so
if it ended during the commercial break and it was like, oh, you won't
That's happened before on WCW, if I'm not mistaken. That's happened before where the match ends during commercial break and they're like, I'm like, yeah, someone didn't communicate. Oh, but what's interesting is that I think it was Andrade. He looked visibly frustrated at the botch. And obviously that tells you that's not what the ending was supposed to be. But they sowed the seeds for possibly another triple threat. So we'll see what happens. We'll get to
Well,
that.
and I like the fact that they were saying, "Hey, it's really humid in this arena, so the
Yeah.
ropes are wet and slippery." I'm like, "No, it's not. What are you? Like, it's not. It's humid in an indoor arena."
Yeah, I think they're just trying to cover that up. But yeah, someone wore too
Yeah,
much
they were
baby
totally
oil.
trying to cover the fact that because he had already done the jump up, leap up to do the elbow drop. So he had already
Yeah.
done that. It wasn't the ropes weren't too wet for him to do that. So they were trying to cover for him, but the whole thing was kind of sloppy. And then you got Carmelo Hayes jawing with Andrade afterwards backstage, like, "Hey man, couldn't get it done, huh?" And so they're going to be fighting for the 6th time next week. So you'll see match number 6 between these two again. We're going to
Which of course it's going to be a good match. Obviously,
Of
it's
course
going to
it
be
will.
great.
Yeah.
It is. It's just I feel like this maybe this one falls into like a no contest, and they get
Yeah.
they get a triple threat with
they get a triple threat.
LA Knight, which
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Potentially. Yeah, but we'll see. So after this was that Roman Reigns Cody segment at Georgia Tech. High production value. It was like watching one of those pre-recorded like Saturday Night Live sketches. At least that was the feeling that I started getting from it, where you got all the Chevy Suburbans and Tahoes rolling in like Cody's the president of the United States. And then they walk out into the middle of the field and it's just Cody and Roman. And everything about this is my opinion. I know it's going to be the unpopular opinion. Everything about it felt like it was two rich kids in high school who had a family who spent a lot of money on production, and they were doing like high school theater because they both spoke so slowly, and so like nobody talks like that in real life. But it was like, "Hey, this is a stadium I bled in, blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah, that means if it's my stadium, it's my arena. And if this is my arena, it must be my city. And if this is my city, I guess it's my state. And if this is my state, well, I guess it's my universe." And that's where Roman's doing this whole thing. And then he's like, "So what are you doing here?" And Cody's like, "Well, this is my city because we bled here too." And then Roman just looks at him and goes, "All right, what do you want?" Everything about it was both trying to be so poetic, and then he's like, "What do you want?" And then it turns into them both very slowly trash talking each other, and being way too methodical with it. And then they get to the end, and he's like, "All right, let's cut to the chase." And I was like, "Thank God, cut to the chase." He's like, "What do you need?" So all of this slow talking back and forth was just like, "I need to know you're going to have my back."
Yeah.
Is all the whole thing was. And he was like, "Okay, I'll have you back. Give me your word you'll have my back." And then Roman's like, "All right, I give you my word. I'll have your back until it's over. And then I'm coming for that title." And he's like, "Well, this title isn't yours to come for." And he's like, "Well, maybe it is and maybe it ain't." And it's like I was like, "Will you two just make out already?" Like everything about it was like just too much. And then he's like tries to leave and he's like, "You're in my way." And then Cody steps to the side and he's like, "You're in my way in life." But then he does go past him. So I guess he was also in his way physically. I was half waiting for him to go, "You're in my way, both metaphorically and literally, because I parked on the other side." And then like walks out, and then you have like the music like blaring, and it's like the Eye of the Storm, whoa, 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 playing in the background. Everything about it was so, and I like corny stuff, but this was like a little bit too, like you're trying to take yourself too seriously now, and it was very cheeseball, and I was not a huge fan of this segment, but I'm sure I'm in the minority there. Big D, what did you think of this whole thing?
I mean, okay, so I enjoy the theatrics of it, obviously, and I get what they're trying to do. They're in Atlanta. That's Cody's hometown. Dusty Rhodes built their foundation there as a wrestling family, and of course, it's poetic because Roman Reigns played football for Georgia Tech and had a pretty decent career there at Georgia Tech. So that's his alma mater. So it makes sense. Bad Blood's in Atlanta. Georgia Tech is a common ground. Okay, cool. Yeah. That part makes a lot of sense. And I think that Georgia Tech Stadium, I think that's where Bad Blood's going to be, if I'm not mistaken. So, okay, I'm like, all right, I get that. Perfect. Yeah. I feel, could it have been done differently? I feel so. I feel it could have. I feel that it shouldn't have been as, like like the subtle remarks back and forth of like, well, I bled in the stadium and I this and that in the stadium. What have you done? Like if he doesn't know Cody's from Atlanta and Cody's just kind of like, you know who my dad is, and it's like, well, no shit. Like everyone knows who your dad is. Like yes,
well, that's right. Immediately Roman was like,
yeah. Then he's just kind of like, all right, valid, and he just like moved on. I'm like, oh, okay,
valid. What do you want? And it was like, okay,
yeah.
well,
But
that
so
was easy.
like, yeah. So I was kind of like, I feel like I don't know, but how would I have done it different? I have no idea. I probably would have.
I wouldn't have done the segment at all. Like that. Like I probably wouldn't
Well,
have had a good. I
here's the
wouldn't
thing.
have had a good solution to it either.
I feel like this would have made sense to do on the Go Home show because it's Friday Night SmackDown, the day before Bad Blood. He has a reason to be in the stadium. You know, like, would it have been better to have Roman Reigns working out in the Georgia Tech weight room because he did so well there? His prestige, he has prestige there, and the coaches let him in.
Yeah.
And he has like a pass to get in, so he's working out. They can show him getting ready for the match, and Cody just kind of walks in, you know, and is like, "I've been looking for you." Like, you know what I mean? Then okay, cool. Like you could have done that. You know, they could have had that dialogue on the bench or like there, like that. To me, that made sense. Or Roman could have been sitting like on the bench on the sideline, just kind of like taking it all in, and then Cody interrupt. Like that's how I feel it should have been. Just because
rather than a face off at like the 50-yard line.
Well, it's a face off at the 50-yard line. They're in Georgia, but SmackDown's in California. So it's like, you know, they're in California. Why are they like that's what gets to me. I'm like, this would have been, I feel like this would, even if you left it as is, let's just say you leave it as is. I feel this is better for the go home segment than it is a week before the go home, so 2 weeks before the show. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of where I had a problem with it. But I mean, it was okay. Nothing too crazy. Obviously they're not polished actors, but I mean, it's you know, it's trying to drive a point home, and I get that, but I just feel it could have been done a little bit better or different time.
It could have been different, and it just felt unnecessary though, because I'm like, all this big meeting was is, will you have my back? I'm like, you guys could have had that conversation in the
locker room
backstage at SmackDown. Yeah, like you didn't need to orchestrate this whole visit to Georgia Tech. But after this, we got speaking of confusing things. After this, we got Apollo Crews versus Vinci do-over for Giovanni Vinci, and this match went a little bit longer than the last one. But
1 minute.
Long story short, 1 minute. But Apollo Crews got another surprise roll-up on Vinci, so I'm guessing that he really is the Shockmaster. I wasn't sure.
Well,
I wasn't sure. Well, I mean, he attacked him afterwards.
Yeah.
And, like, beat him up. Like, he looked better, and then afterwards he, like, got angry and attacked Apollo Crews. But he's still 0-2 now since coming back and got pinned both times relatively easily by Apollo Crews. So I was just like everything about this, I hate it more each time. I mean, but what did you think?
I'd like to think this is part of a bigger plan. I'd like to think that. I really hope so. However, I find it comical that not only did he lose by roll-up quickly, he lost to the same roll-up, the crucifix pin.
Same crucifix roll-up.
He lost to the same freaking move back-to-back weeks. You'd think you'd learn that, hey, I'm vulnerable to the crucifix pin. I don't have the core strength to kick out of that. Like, avoid it.
Especially since he's supposed to be like the Rolls Royce of wrestlers.
Yeah.
He's incredible, high performance wrestler. I'm like,
looking like a Pinto.
You can't figure out how to navigate the crucifix pin.
Yeah, no. So that was my only issue with it. I was just like, I mean, my hope is that there's something bigger leading up to it, but we'll see.
I hope so. I'm gonna say no. We'll see. Right after the whole Cody thing, Byron Saxton went backstage and said, "Kevin Owens, what do you think?" And he's like, And then right after this, he was like, "Kevin Owens, it's been 10 minutes. Do you have an answer yet? For what do you think about Cody and Roman?" And then he's like, "Well, I'm just going to make a statement out here." And then went out to the ring. And then he's like, right about to open his mouth and give the statement. And then the bloodline interrupted. Tama Tonga walked out and cut a promo that sounded more like he had Tourette's. I haven't heard him. I haven't heard him do a promo before, but he was kind of stuttering and being kind of strange the whole time. So that was a little weird. But he was basically said KO was going to get what was coming to him. A brawl ensued, and he got jumped by Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Jacob Fatu. DIY came running down to help out Owens, and then Nick Aldis came out and said, "You know what? This sounds like a great main event. 6-man tag for tonight." And then said apparently they didn't have a main event booked, which is interesting. And
That's
I thought
concerning,
about that,
Nick Aldis.
You guys went into this show and you didn't have a main event, and you only have one because the Bloodline halfway through the show, because this was at the 1 hour mark. Halfway through the show, the Bloodline attacked Kevin Owens, and he was like, "Oh shoot, main event time!" So that was going to be coming up later. After this is when we got that tornado tag. So the tornado tag between Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax versus Naomi and Bayley. This one had the title shot and loser leaves town stipulations. Now they did clarify, and we talked about this last week. The SmackDown leave SmackDown rule only applied to Bayley and Naomi.
Yeah.
But then Nia did suggest, hey, if you get pinned, you should probably leave SmackDown. So she kind of threw that out there.
But then that tells you who's going to take the pin. That told you.
Yeah. That already tried to explain it to you. So this was a good match. There was something happened very early on where you had a double cover attempt early, where Naomi and Bayley both tried to get the pinfall at the same time. They were double counting it, and then it got stopped. And as soon as that happened, I was like, "Is that going to be the finish? They're going to do a double count out?" And they shouldn't have done it, because it wouldn't have occurred to me that would have been the end if they hadn't teased that like very early on in the match.
Yeah.
And then so you got the usual. There was good teamwork until later on in the match. Naomi and Bayley started fighting a little bit, pushing and shoving. Naomi broke up Bayley's pinfall. Naomi shoved Bayley after that. And towards the very end, Tiffany accidentally hit a swanton on Nia Jax. And then you had Naomi and Bayley both. Naomi and Bayley actually hit a 1D on Tiffany Stratton, which was great.
Yeah.
Then they got a simultaneous kind of rolled up pin on Nia Jax. So they both did get the pin, which is how it happened. They telegraphed it early on. And so as soon as it ended, I was like, okay, so it's triple threat. Like that was the first thought that came to my mind is they both are technically the number one contender. It's a triple threat match now, which we always talk about. But then they squashed that later on. They had a conversation with Nick Aldis, and he was like, "You know what? You guys will just compete against each other, and the winner is going to compete against Nia Jax. So they're competing next week." Which that feels a little strange, because I feel like in the spirit of the stipulation was whoever got the pin, they both got the pin, so they both are number one contenders, which means you do a triple threat. Why are you going to make them wrestle each other again and re-qualify? So he's like, that's the only possible solution here. And it's like, no, it really isn't. So that was a little jinky, but it was a good match. I enjoyed it. I just felt like they shouldn't have done that early on to kind of telegraph what the ending was going to be.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely did for me. But what did you think?
Yeah, it gave it away. It really did. And I was wondering how they were going to get away with it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. When the ref counted it out the first time, I was like, yeah, that's how it's going to end. That's what they're going to do. And then Tiffany hitting the swanton, obviously that's going to just sow more dissension there between her and Nia Jax. But my thought is they're going to make them go one-on-one. And sorry, the match was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything like spectacular or anything like that. It was all right. But what it did is it progressed the storyline, because I feel what's going to happen now is you're probably going to have, they want it to be a one-on-one match because you need Tiffany to cash in. And I feel like this is probably when it's going to happen. I have a feeling, but we'll see. I've been wrong before, but that's why I think they want it as a one-on-one, because you can't. I mean, imagine trying to cash in on a triple threat. Like, you really can't. But
yeah, you really can't, and it'll probably happen at Bad Blood. Ironically, it'll happen at Bad Blood because there is some Bad Blood between Nia and Tiffany, so it'll make sense.
Yeah, but that's my thought.
Yeah. And then after this, we got a brief promo for Chelsea Green and Michin's upcoming dumpster match.
Oh, that was so hilarious. I loved it.
That gave me a good chuckle. I was like, this is a good palate cleanser.
I'm telling you, Chelsea Green is like awesome at the silly heel. Like, just that's forever her role. Is so good.
Yeah, it was actually very enjoyable. I was like, this is so ridiculous that I'm actually having fun with it.
Yeah.
Michael Cole called Nashville Trashville. I'm sure the people in Nashville will be really happy about that, because he was like, yeah, it's going to be coming to us from Trashville, Tennessee, not Nashville. And I was like, okay. Michael Cole apparently has a problem in Nashville. So that'll be interesting how well he's received. But that is coming up, I think next week, right? Is when they're going to do the dumpster match.
The go home show. Yeah. How funny
Yeah,
she
yeah.
gets
And
bit
then we
by a
got
raccoon.
Oh, I know. And she was like reached the hand in, and I'm like, she's doing some good as far as like theater acting. Her
Yeah.
theater,
Oh yeah.
all of that stuff, she was pretending. She was pretending to
Yeah.
run away from like buzzing stuff, and she was pretending to
Yeah.
get bit by a raccoon, but she pulled it all off perfectly. Roman and Cody need to take acting lessons from Chelsea Gray.
I know. I could just imagine the people passing by, just see like a camera
Oh
and
yeah.
like her like flailing around like that. Like they're probably like, damn TikTokers, and they just keep going.
Well, yeah. At this point, everyone's always like filming something or doing a sketch,
Yeah.
so it's probably not that strange anymore. Main event time was after this 6-man tag match, KO and DIY versus the Bloodline. But right before the match, the Bloodline attacked DIY backstage and apparently completely incapacitated them. So KO just decided to walk up the ramp and brawl with the Bloodline at the top of the ramp, and it was a 3-on-1 until the Street Profits, completely in ring gear and ready to go, came running down to help and just replaced DIY in the matchup, which is very convenient for them.
Of course.
So I know. I was like, wow, they're totally ready to go, like completely ring gear ready, even though they did not have a match booked.
Right. They're like,
But
hey, we're
fine.
just gonna sit here, be ready. That's the definition of being
Yeah,
ready.
Just
Staying
just
ready.
in case something happens, we're gonna stay ready to go. And luckily they did. So this match was the match of the night for me. It was very strong. For me, Jacob Fatu was really the star of this one
Oh,
as
yeah.
well, as he has always been. Like he continues to be. There was a bunch of great spots from him. The one most memorable for me was when he hit that beautiful moonsault where he jumped from the second rope to the top rope and immediately hit the moonsault. That guy's something special as always. Every time he gets out there, he steals a show. There was a lot of great spots. It did end with a DQ, which was like, I mean, it was fine. When Tongaloa just pulled KO off of Tama Tonga and then just threw him into the steps. So it was a very anticlimactic way since crap like that happens all the time in WWE matches, and no one ever it never gets stopped.
Yeah.
And so the fact he's like, yeah, Yoink threw him in the stand. It's like, oh, the ref's had enough. I'm like, wow, this ref has no tolerance for shenanigans because way worse stuff happens all the time. You can literally put a foot on the ropes in front of the ref and be like, hey, his foot's on the rope in clear view and he won't DQ you. But that was the one whip into the ring steps was enough.
Yeah.
The DQ happened with like 6 minutes left, so you knew there was going to be lots of continued shenanigans.
Oh yeah.
So the brawling continued to happen, and then DIY eventually limped out, and I was like, "Wow, you guys were incapacitated for this entire matchup," and then just we're still like, and then they stumble out to help, and then they still got beat up.
Yeah,
Basically,
still.
they ran out there to get beat up some more, and got taken out again. And then you had Cody Rhodes, who clearly was not in Georgia. He was in Sacramento.
Fastest airplane
came running
ride
down
ever.
for the save. I know he hopped on the jet and got there. He ran down for the save. He did hit a nice Cody cutter on Jacob Fatu off the ropes really well.
Yeah.
And then while Cody was jawing, you had Kevin Owens standing behind him. He picked up the chair and looked at it. He did that same spot that he did before. He was kind of looking at the chair and deciding. And I felt like he was going to go for it
this time. I
He
did
a good job.
Yeah.
I was like, it's probably going to happen, but he didn't. He didn't. He kind of teased it and he kind of double clutched it and looked like he was going to get Cody, but instead he kind of gave him like a little half-hearted, like kind of hug.
Yeah.
But you can tell the heel turn is coming for KO. They've been teasing it for a while. They've been teasing this thing with him. I'm sure the catalyst is, how can you possibly join up with the Bloodline after all they've done to me and done to you? So I think I'll like it. I think a heel turn for Kevin Owens is a little overdue at this point. So I'm all for it. But what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This was my match of the night just because it set up so many different layers of stuff to come, right? Jacob Fatu is amazing. I've always complimented his style, his technique, everything about him so great, and he does it so well. So I thought it was hilarious. Street Profits just come out conveniently already ready to go. But yeah, towards the end, I really did think that KO was going to hit Cody with that chair. He looked like this time, like the last time he was kind of like hesitant. This one he looked a little more like he was going to like wail on him, but then he didn't. I think it's going to set up eventually. I feel like maybe it'll blow up with Kevin Owens attempting to come for the save at Bad Blood and then turning on Cody, but not in the way you think. He attacks Roman instead of Cody. You know what I mean? And then Cody's like, dude, what the hell? And then it just blows up from there. So I think that might be the way to go. But we'll see. I was thoroughly entertained with this. It was a good way to close the show. I liked it. Again, tying back to the whole segment with him and Roman Reigns, Cody and Roman, that could have been saved because again, now you're like, wait, weren't you in Georgia? Now you're in California. Like obviously we know it's pre-tape, but You're literally just
Yeah.
wasting money flying from one end of the states to the other, and just I mean I don't know, but yeah, that's just my deal. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think SmackDown was a little more enjoyable than Raw this week.
I would agree. Yeah, SmackDown. I give Raw a B. I'll give SmackDown a B plus. I'm gonna give it a B plus, just because it was still. I wasn't a huge fan of the way that they handled the U.S. title match to open the
Yeah.
show, and then
But I
the
do want to say
botches
my
at the
only
end.
gripe with this match, the main event. Sorry, one last note I
Yeah.
wanted to make. The ref DQ'd a competitor of the match from stopping a pin, which does not make sense because that happens all the time.
Yeah,
That's the whole
happens
point
all
of
the
having a
time.
partner. Second of all, this is the second time he does it. He did it once during the match. They didn't say anything.
It was just like 2 is too many. It's like
Yeah,
I've
and then he
had
did
enough.
it, and they were
You
like,
got
"Oh,
your
that's
one
it,
free way.
that's it, you're done." I'm like, "Well, he's in the match, dude. Like
Yeah.
he's in the match."
It's like,
man.
well, he
But-
whipped him into the steps, and that was where he crossed the line. It's like everybody does stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like, come on.
no. But
Yeah,
so
it's a
anyway, that
lot
was
of. That was the kind of the theme though for like both shows. It was a lot
Yeah,
of referees
terrible
with
refereeing.
very inconsistent approaches on things. So
yeah.
yeah, but I give it a B plus, show. I'll say.
I agree
for
with that.
SmackDown.
That's what I had on my nose. I had it as a high B plus. I'm good with
Yeah.
that.
Yep, and that was the week that was in WWE. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave us some comments if you disagree, agree, or if you just want to chat wrestling. We always love that. We appreciate the support as always. We'll be back next week with more fun from Raw and SmackDown in the lead up to Bad Blood. Until then, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big D. Daryl Ortiz. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.